evening.
And welcome to this week's edition of Men's Equal Rights. I'm Evan Lionel. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have an amazing show. There are questions that are asked, and people believe that this is just from a men's perspective, but I'm here to tell you today that it's not. There are also women who go through the same thing when it comes to parental alienation, and they have been alienated from their children as well. I'd like to bring on our panelists and just get it started right away. Welcome, Douglas Brown. Welcome, John Rockmore. And welcome, Larry R. Hey,
Hello,
gentlemen,
hello.
what's going on?
How you doing today?
All right. John,
John, you're muted, buddy.
I am so sorry. I owe you $1, Mr. Douglas. I am so fine and absolutely blessed. Thank you for another Sunday. It's good to see you, Mr. Evan.
and Larry R.
Oh, um, I'm actually not part of the show today, guys, but I'll come on and say hello. How's everyone? I'm Larry R, and we're just trying to have a great show today. So back to you guys. I'm going to disappear for a moment.
Great. With that said, it's good to see all of you. And thank you for being here. As always, these are the panelists for Men's Equal Rights. Well, let's bring on our very, very special guest. I'm excited to have her on. She's going to tell us her story. Gentlemen, welcome to the forum, the one and only Lala Justice of Cheyedentity. We're excited to have you on, Lala. Hey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Lala, just so you know, this forum is not just for men, as you and I have discussed before. We like to hear the stories from a woman's point of view as to what they have gone through in family court as well. And parental alienation is one of those things. We'll also be today discussing restraining orders and jurisdiction. So Lala, can you tell us your story?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mur, for having me. Everyone, I'm Lala Justice. I'm the founder of Cheyedentity.org. And so my story actually started about 10 years ago when I was going through the early stages of divorce. And many of us don't know exactly what we're going to expect during divorce. I thought it was going to be amicable, but it turned into a circus very quickly. And it's been almost 11 years that I've been in the litigation process with the back and forth with parental alienation. But to summarize it, 10 years ago, we relocated, and it was based on a doctor's recommendations for our special needs son. And so what a lot of people don't take into consideration when they're moving is the jurisdiction issue. So I didn't consider that when I was being relocated and my spouse is asking me to give up everything. And so you give up everything, and now you're vulnerable. Now you're in a completely different state, and you have children, and you're trying to get acclimated. Well, 3 weeks after we got acclimated, my former spouse was still in a different state. And so he had changed the course of what he wanted to do and wanted us to come back and said, okay, well, I'm going to file for divorce. I'm going to get a guardian ad litem, and we could do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And as a mother, you're thinking, this is a joke, right? Like, I mean, hands down, the judge is going to know that I'm the one that's taking care of the children. So this should be easy. And it just didn't quite go about, the way that I thought. It became about jurisdiction and what's public policy and, what's classified as the best interest of the child. So here I am in one state, completely moved, house sold. Now I'm relocating back to another state, leaving another child because I had a daughter as well. And she was just starting school. So it's like you can't pull your kids when they're in the middle of high school. They don't want to be moved. And I'm now going back to court in a completely different state. and now finding another residence in a completely different state. So I'm actually living in 2 states at the same time. I'm on a plane every other weekend checking on my other child, and then on a plane coming back to get my other child now that we're going to have this new joint custody split visitation. And now I have a guardian ad litem who's dictating, my schedule. And, I looked at the different possibilities, since I was also a child of divorce, what this looks like for a kid, what they get to go through. And the chaos kind of started early. So the rulings didn't make any sense. The doctors that came in and testified, it just really became about what the public policy likes, what the jurisdiction, what the best interest likes. And the best interest was, basically be quiet, come back. It's as if you're still going to be married to this person. You get to keep the kids, and he gets to make all the decisions. That was very interesting to me because there wasn't a single decision that was made during marriage. So you go down this path of what looks like how they get to this strategy, and that's what it is. It's an actual strategy. And, at the time I figured, how can I make this easier? This is about control. This is not about what's in the best interest of the kid. And my ex-husband at the time had communicated that. So I figured, okay, rather than put this kid through all of this, let's make it easier for you. Okay, so this is about control. Let me give it to you. You can decide where he lives, and I'll adopt your position. And then that way we can deal with the release of the control. That just made it worse. That landed me getting back and forth into the ping pong of court, because that was not the outcome that, clearly the courts wanted, and clearly what he wanted. I wanted freedom. And I didn't want to be dictated to. So I figured this would be the best surrender. That did not work. And the minute that I made the decision to do that, that's when the alienation started, because that's where the punishment began. So that's where the games began. So I'm picking up my child from school, and there's police there. What are they doing here? Oh, aren't you going to kidnap the child? Why would I need to kidnap my own child? Oh, well, we were concerned. Have you been drinking? No, I haven't been drinking. I'm here to pick up my kid, so I don't understand what the problem is. And there were these instances of all these different dramatic issues and the pickups and the back and forth. So I was like, okay, again, how can I simplify it? Okay, fine. Now we're back in court. Okay, I'm going to ask for an exchange coordinator. That way we don't have to deal with each other as much. And then maybe that will help. That didn't help. And then it's, oh, okay, well, now we're doing the exchanges. Oh, I forgot to buy the ticket. Oh, you mean this airport? Oh, wait, I was supposed to meet you in Phoenix. Oh, maybe Houston, or wait, I don't know how I keep getting this confused. The order is not clear. Now we need to do a motion to clarify. Now we do the clarify to that order. Wait, now we need to do an enforcement. And so I realized, okay, so it really doesn't matter which way I go about this. It's going to turn into a circus. And so my family members got heavily involved, and they got into hospitality. Had to get, my niece is a flight attendant, and then another cousin works at a hotel. So we were all like on this panel trying to make it work with the exchanges so that there would be no problem whatsoever. And then it still became a problem, and so now I am flying out every other weekend, because now, I basically asked, okay, well, how can I make it simplifier? That way you don't have to worry about if you bought the ticket. Okay, tell you what, don't worry about picking up, dropping off. We'll get the exchange coordinator. We'll take care of that. And it still was a problem. So 404 flights later, in 11 years almost into this, I can tell you that it's a strategy. It's a circus. And if it wasn't for the support of family members and very, very close friends, 404 flights is a lot of flights for someone to fly and not know if you're going to be getting your kid or not. And then not to mention the character assassination that goes along with it, which of course opposing side needs that, because that's how they can kind of manipulate the court to get their way. And so I basically got to a point within the 10 years, which is now going on 11, to try to see what is the best outcome for the child, because this is actually happening, and a court is deciding what they deem as the best interest. And then they're using the Children's Bill of Rights as they deem as, okay, well, what's the best interest? And it's still not being followed. And so you have all these different things that I've witnessed. And when I realized that it was a strategy, my heart went out to men. And I did share this with Evan because I was like, wow, this is why my dad left. Okay, got it. I mean, can't blame him really. It's like that is too much chaos for any person to have to go through. And then you're also being threatened with child support, and the different leveraging games that go along with that. You could be paying, for a year, and opposing side is like, oh, well, we can't get the order in yet. There's a typo on that. We'll get the order in right away. You just keep paying. So you're paying, and they're like, what? Oh, that was a gift by the time the order gets in. Well, now you're behind because you've been paying on a gift, right? And so now it's like, okay, so we want to play that game. Gotcha. Okay, so I need to do a little bit more research. And now you're paying all this money. The attorneys are getting the money, the strategy's going back and forth, and they're only giving you very limited information on how you can advocate for yourself because you're looking at these terms on paper, but the judge is vocalizing something a little bit different, and you realize that the interpretation from the paper is completely different than what he's actually saying. And so there becomes this conflict. And I'm just like, okay, so back to the drawing board, got to keep re-strategizing on this circus. And I told a lot of my friends and even myself, and I shared with Evan, I had a lot of judgment before I was married about deadbeat dads and, how can they just walk out on their kids? My dad is gone, but I was just like, Dad, I get it. Listen, I get it. Like, it wasn't the right thing to do, but listen, I get it, because that's a lot to put anybody through. And then you're being accused of certain things and the kids are in the middle. And as a child, I can tell you it's easily to get manipulated and be told at the 11th hour when someone's tossing you the phone, talk to your dad, tell him we're broke. Oh, hey, we're broke. Because if I don't say that, I'm not going to get to go outside, play with my friends. So I need to say that, so Cheyedentity was very close to my heart because being a child of divorce and seeing what that dynamic looked like and how it affected me and my decision making, obviously, right, in my marriage, because you only adopt what's familiar to you, that kind of happens. And it became very clear to me that the child doesn't really have a voice, and parents get caught up in the conflict and they don't quite understand how the child's looking at it. So I was able to familiarize myself with my kid because I know exactly what he's feeling and I know exactly what it's like to be in the middle. And when parents can't understand how it looks from the child because they're in the fight, it's about, it's like it becomes property, about what you want, about what I want, and it's the back and forth, but they still don't understand the equality of it all and what the kid desires, unless you're a murderer or you're just completely dangerous, there's no reason why you can't be involved in your child's life. And so I was able to develop a sense of empathy for men, especially Black men, because you need to understand that women are being taught this strategy. They walk into a law office and the lawyer gives them a magic green bean and says, this is going to be the outcome I can get for you. But they don't really quite understand what that outcome is going to cost because they already inflict fear onto the other side. And you got it. It's you or them. They're going to get you first. And then the other side is being told the same thing. She's going to get you first. So now you guys are both in the conflict and, shooting at each other. And you don't really understand how you got there. But depending on what you've done, dictates if you can get out, because typically the person that's causing the most conflict is the person that's already compromised anyway, and they can't really get out of the fight. They've kind of sold their soul over already the minute that they decided that they wanted to win, and that was what was important, be it humiliation through the character assassination, whatever it is. And so my perspective changed when my friends would talk about deadbeat dads and can you believe he just walked out? And, but then I would recall, I do recall the things that you were plotting that you said you were going to do so that you would win, but it just wasn't that clear because it was so cliche of the norm of the men walking out and they're not there. But you don't get to hear the other side of why they walked out. And a man is not as patient as a woman. 11 years, 404 flights, 7 judges, 13 collective attorneys. most men would be like, you know what, I'm out. I'll wait till he's 18 or she's 18. We can just,
Wow.
I'm out. I'm done. You know.
Wow, Lala. Lala, let me say this. I empathize with you 100%. And I'd like to say to all of the men on the panel, this is what I was telling you, that women go through exactly the same thing. She has gone through exactly what all of us have gone through. And Douglas was just sharing his story last week, going through the exact same thing as Lala.
You know,
Hey.
I don't know if I could deal with it for 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember.
Wow.
I don't
remember
know,
what she
like-
said.
Wow. Hold on a minute, guys, because
Oh, yeah.
I want to throw this get all your questions together, guys, because I know you got a lot for her. Lala, the first question is 404 flights, 11 years of this madness, and how much money do you estimate you've put into the courts? Just an estimation.
Oh, there's no estimation. I mean, I probably have sent all of their kids to college 10 times over and over again.
Jeez.
You know.
Wow. Wow. You and me both, and a lot of friends of mine. So you were talking about jurisdiction. Did your ex take the children out of the state and move without your permission?
He didn't take them out of the state. He did travel out of state frequently and did not tell me, which a lot of mothers and fathers don't know within their orders, that technically that is supposed to be disclosed. And so there were times I didn't know where my child was, and he did move repeatedly, and I had no idea where they were. So that's a whole nother story about learning how to become an investigator.
Wow. And see, that's my situation. I haven't seen my children in 7 years. So this is something that is actually, they become enablers. The court becomes enablers to this particular abusive process. And it sounds like your ex knew about the game before you did. Is that true?
He knew about the game, but like I said, it's a strategy. So when a man, it's typically, in this situation with me, it's typically I would be the one that would have this strategy. I can tell you that. I don't want to say any bad words on this platform, but it's some female stuff, which is why half the time I would be looking at him in court like, I thought you were a man, and I'm confused because this is something that the stuff that he's done, I'd be like, well, that's what I would do if I wanted to be vindictive, or if I wanted to do that. So it's a strategy that, yes, he was already introduced to the minute that he filed.
And honestly, Lala, most men don't even want to play that sort of game. That's not even in our DNA. So you picked people on the street know the term, and Cat Williams voices the term very well. That is what you picked right there.
Yes.
Amen.
Absolutely.
So he actually asked me, he said, he had to ask because he was really confused.
Because it's unusual behavior for a man, but we digress. We're not into bashing anyone on this platform.
Correct.
As far as the custody goes, do you have 50-50 custody?
Most states, yes. Most states automatically give you what they consider joint conservatorship. And that's just their fancy way of saying it's 50-50. And they put that on paper because they don't want to give one parent sole custody, because that kind of affects jurisdiction, passports, and things like that. So they try to keep it like, certain states will put like joint conservator, or they'll put mutual conservators. It just depends on the state on how they put that language in there. And
definitely not Washington.
Yes. So
and not California either. California is not like that. California literally stripped me of all my parental rights, and I was their primary caretaker. So it varies from state to state. What state are you talking about?
Texas.
So this is in the state of Texas. They have different laws concerning that.
Indiana as well. Indiana's like that as well.
Is there a restraining order involved?
Yes, there is. I have to, of course, be careful of what I discuss concerning my case, but regarding restraining orders, I know what I've heard what men go through. It seems like that's the go-to toolbox as far as like try to keep the men away from the children, is to claim, abuse and so forth. In my case, it was just downright, like, you're stalking, like that's just too much.
Because you want to see your children. That's ridiculous.
Well, in my case, the stalking only occurred when I had the child, so it was, I need to know where they are. I'm afraid. California has earthquakes. Anything could happen. It's a black hole there. I need to have them followed. I don't know where they are.
Wow. So here's the issue with restraining orders. They're used as tools.
Yes.
For a certain party to get the upper hand in divorce and custody. And once a restraining order is put in place, it's used to vilify a person, or it's used to get the upper hand in property. If they can get a restraining order on you and they get the whole 150-yard deal with it, then you can't even go to your own house. Even if your name is on the deed, and a lot of people don't know the power of a restraining order. You can't even go to your own home if the restrained person is the one that's requesting the restraining order is in the house, then you cannot go. If you're the restrained person, you can't go to your own house. You can't go near your own property, your cars, wherever that person is, you can't go near it. And attorneys use this to actually get the ball rolling, to get their particular party the upper hand in the divorce. And they usually start out with this from the very beginning. How many people on the panel have had a restraining order issued against them? John? Douglas, you?
You're muted, Douglas.
No, but an attempt was made.
The attempt was made, because that is the game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open the floor up to questions from our panelists. Let's start with Douglas first. Go ahead, since your story was similar to hers. Douglas, what would you like to ask Lala?
I'm actually curious, who was doing the paying of the child support?
Well, we both were. We had to do it joint initially. And what he would do, it was another creative strategy, is the temporary order, because before it gets to final order, right? So
yeah.
The judge gives a verbal order, tells everybody what it's going to be like, what you're going to do. And in most cases, you're supposed to, at that point that the judge decides, you're supposed to follow what he's saying. But then there's this other strategy where they're kind of like, well, we don't have the temp order, so we're really confused. But it just so happens to be that the same person that's saying they're confused, the judge appointed them to do the temp order. So we both had to pay, and because the temp order was held up, then, legal counsel saying, hey, well, you still pay him. So whether it's the PayPal, whether you're sending a check, you still need to pay. I didn't know at the time that I was supposed to pay through this SDU unit, this child support unit. But you can't pay through a unit if you don't have the case open. And the case can't be open if they don't have the order. And if the order isn't done, and so it's a catch-22, because the judge automatically tells you if you make any personal payments, it could be subject to a gift, and the other side gets to decide what it's being used for.
And of course, if you don't make those payments, then they're gonna be like, oh, well, you're in arrears.
But the goal is to, there's two strategies which Evan talked about. The restraining order is one of them, because that's every female, hands down, they're asking, are you scared?
Right.
It's his voice a little bit. Oh my God, we have to do a restraining order. Have to do a restraining order. Then the next one is as it relates to the child support. So if they drag out the temp order and it's not entered correctly, or they missed a letter off of your name, then the other side gets to come in and claim that you're behind, and you're like, well, I didn't get a notice. I don't even know what's going. You're automatically in the rears. So their job is to set it up automatically, so you're automatically upside down. But child support is a whole different issue, because a lot of it isn't legal anyway.
Right. That's another story. What was the state that the actual issue of jurisdiction was in?
Douglas, hold that question for just a second,
okay.
and allow me to interject, because there are people that need to hear this. The game is to keep one particular parent out of the child's life in order to get the top tier child support. The less time you spend with your child, the more child support they can request. If you have no time with your child, then they're getting top tier child support. That's a money game. That's not in the best interest of the children.
1%er.
And then in the courtroom, they'll sit there and tell you that time and money are two separate issues.
Yes, it's a game. It's a game.
Oh, it
So
is.
go ahead, Douglas. What was your? Hold on, John. John, hold on for a second. Go ahead, Douglas. Let Douglas finish. Go ahead.
My bad. What was the state that the actual jurisdiction was in when the divorce began?
You say it was in Texas is when it started.
It was in Texas, and then you moved to another state?
Yeah, he moved the entire family.
He moved to another state.
No. He relocated us. We sold the house, and then he was come a month later.
Okay. So then the whole thing about child support, I'm just trying to figure out, my whole thought process is, because you guys are in different locations and you have to literally hop on planes to see one another, whatever the jurisdiction, wherever it started at, he's just trying to keep, that court system is just trying to keep getting paid.
That court system was, he filed to make sure that, because I think you had to live here, you had to live in California for like 6 months in order to be classified as a resident.
Yep.
And so jurisdiction was still in the other state. But because what Evan was talking about cost, about paying, after a while, family members and friends get tired of lending money and helping you pay. So one person was like, you need to go to law school, right? I didn't know the importance of jurisdiction, because once the house sold, it was no longer the home state the minute the house sold. But I didn't know that until after the divorce. So it just depends on jurisdiction. Like, I don't know your situation, but it just depends on what was established as the home state, meaning if there was a house you guys had together, things like that, whatever that you had established, then that becomes the home state in that moment. Now, if they sell it, move, whatever, and you're in the middle of all this, then technically that's not the home state. It's not, it was given up.
That's where I got caught up too. I was living in the state of California with my former spouse, and she just up and took off. And I went up, because we're from Washington State. I followed her up to Washington State to try to save my marriage, to save my family and everything, right? And then we get to the courtroom, and they're like, oh, well, the first thing the judge asks is, what's the jurisdiction of the state? Like, had I known, I would have stayed in California and played the game from there and forced her to come back down, and the whole battle would have been way different than what it was.
Depending on how long it's been, you probably could still change the jurisdiction. It's just mine was like, it was just too far.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't live in California anymore, so there's nothing that can be. It's just the way it all played out. I mean, we were in limbo with the temp order for 1.5 years. So yep.
4 years. Yeah.
Those are the games that they play, that the court plays, that the attorneys initiate. it is a complete game, and it's unfortunate because this wears on your health, it wears on your finances. You, as in my case, I was depleted. I'd like to now go to John Rockmore. John, what do you have to ask of Lala?
Okay, I have so many things here. Number one, you had said that I'm going to get you first, and I never felt like I was in the game. I started the game a distant second, right off the bat. Like it was already the deck I could feel was already stacked against me. The game, I call it the web because we know the web is the World Wide Web. This game is the World Wide Web. But I want to get to your state specifically because you said Texas and Indiana. And this has just been my experience of the culture of Texas. You as a woman, they want you to be at home and with those kids. They do, until you cross them. And then you become a problem. And then the deck is stacked against you right off the bat, because if a man says that you're unfit, if a man says that you have some issues, you got issues. For all the other men in the courts and so forth, you have issues. There's something wrong with this woman. He's trying to be a good man and she's not subservient to him. You are the wrong one. And that's both of those states you're talking about, Indiana, but way so Texas. Because all he had to really do is throw a cowboy hat on. I'm not bashing Texas. I'm just saying that's.
Oh no, I'm not originally from Texas, so I'm fine. I'm not.
I know because we may have some people looking on and saying Texas. I'm just saying. Guys. Yeah, hey now, but the culture that I noticed have been, it's more of a subservient kind of thing, not necessarily Middle East, but women stay in your place. And if he can say this woman's a bad woman, when you get to court, you're a bad woman. That's all.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, because and there was also a culture difference as well. So yes. I just happened just not to be the right shade, and also being a female and not in the right state. So
Lala,
so you got 2 strikes.
Excuse me, John. Lala, who filed first?
He did. Whoever files first is supposed to be the truth teller.
That's the petition.
They got the advantage, meaning.
The legal term is petitioner in the court. And if you become the petitioner before the other party, then the other party has to prove everything that you say is wrong. It's kind of like they're playing catch up, trying to prove what all the allegations that you throw out. They got to prove that they're wrong. Once you get caught up in that game, it's like an uphill battle. Go ahead, John.
Now, and I want to ask your opinion of this, because mine filed in Pennsylvania, filed here in Los Angeles County, and then filed in Orange County. And all 3 of them were chasing me. When I finally got to LA County, they had an office in Torrance, an office in Los Angeles, and an office in Long Beach. And I literally made the circle. I mean, that's why I call it the World Wide Web, because the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. And all they did know is I lived in arrears. I lived in arrears. To this day, I'm $300,000 in the arrears. So, I mean, with your education, talk to me.
We probably need to talk off panel, but I got you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, right? and not once did anyone say fraud. I mean, how could I ever be in compliance?
That's not how you handle that. No, you can't. No, you let them chase you and do everything that they just did.
Yeah, and they still do. And every now and then, someone will pick up the phone because they feel like they got a hot case, and I go, "What you got? Come on." The fear had gone. I'd gone to jail so many times by trying to do the right thing. I used to go to jail, and the sheriff wouldn't even handcuff me anymore. He was tired of it.
Yeah.
And John.
And that's that's also the other tactic. There's so many. Like I said, when you go to school and they're telling you what the law is, and you're looking at it, and you're like, wow, it's not anything like what you said. It's the opposite of what. Okay, all right, this is interesting.
Every day is opposite day.
Yeah, it's not, the interpretation is everything. And so once I learned how the importance of strategy and character assassination go hand in hand. You need both. And so
That's
once I understood the importance of strategy, I understood the story. Once you understand the story, you got the script. Once you got the script, you can sit next to the producer, you know exactly what's going on. And it becomes very, very clear. Not fair, because honestly, your spouse or ex-spouse or ex-girlfriend, whomever, you got to understand the magic being they're being given.
Yes, ma'am. Now,
And might I interject quickly, John?
Yes,
Two questions. One, John, did they suspend your license?
yes, several times.
That's one of the things that they do. And the question becomes, how do they think you can make a comfortable living and get around to work if you don't have a driver's license? It's kind of sabotage, if
It
you
is.
will. It's flat out sabotage because they know you got to drive. And if you drive, you're on a suspended license. If you get caught, they're going to take your car. And it kind of puts you in a whirlwind of downward spiral. And then they arrest you constantly to break your spirit. This is something that must be stopped, not something that should be. It must be stopped. And as Lala spoke earlier about strategy, just let me share with you, most of the times when a man comes to court, what's on his mind is seeing his children. He doesn't even know the game to strategize. He didn't even know he was playing. He's walking. It's not even in our nature to play these games. This is not something we're thinking about. Where my baby's at? I want to see my babies, and they're playing a game. And the objective of Murr is to expose this and get this game addressed on a federal level and get it shut down and regulated. And Lala, is that possible coming from a law background?
There's a strategy. That's what I will say. Numbers mean everything right now. You know, in order to get change, you need numbers. You need enough cases where this has been a repetitive cycle, which it has been in a lot of different states. But if you're not exercising your rights and you're not advocating within your own communities, then there really isn't going to be any change. And, you know, that's why I decided to put together a movement, because I realized I could continue to do 20 different gymnastics, you know, and the only way things are going to change is I need to, you know, bring some things into light, start a movement. You know, I wish things were different with COVID, where people could be doing, you know, peaceful protests, you know, because that's the only way it's going to change. If you're not saying anything, if you're not doing anything about it, they have no intention. They're going to keep taking the money. They don't need to do anything different.
Wow. There was a question on the, hold on, John, hold on for a second. There was a question on the panel about passports. It's about passports. And what are, do you know the laws about, one of the things I know before I ask you, Lala, is that if a child is in a particular jurisdiction of the court, no parent has a right to take the child out of the jurisdiction of the court. It is even stated on when you filed for your divorce, it's stated no one is to take the child out of the jurisdiction of the court. In my case, the judge during the process of the divorce, the judge asked my ex-wife, would you like to get passports? And my ex-wife is from India. The judge blatantly, at the beginning of our divorce, said, would you like to get passports? I expressed to the judge that India is not a signatory of the Hague Convention. And the Hague Convention allows you to go in and retrieve a child that has been abducted. And India is not a signatory of that, so they couldn't go in if she abducted them to India. In addition to that, she was a flight risk because she had no real ties here. She was divorcing, her and I were getting a divorce, and she only had one brother in the States. She was not a citizen. These are things that makes a person a flight risk. And so when I pointed all of those out, the judge said, I don't care. If you want passports, I'll give you passports. So I had to contact the Passport Bureau. I had to let them know they will be held responsible. This judge is breaking the law. I had to share with them what the law was. In addition to that, I called the Indian consulate. I called the American consulate. I alerted them. Many times you hear the Amber Alert on, it is because it's a parent abducting a child. So what are the rules and regulations for that, Lala, if you'd like to expound?
Well, it's hard to say what the rules and regulations are because each state has something completely different. And without looking at it, I wouldn't really feel comfortable like giving that advice. But what I can tell you is that they do have certain provisions in every order, which it should be standard because of abductions. Most states have adopted, phrases that say when it comes to a passport that you have to have both parents' permission, you have to sign off on the actual application. And so it's sticky because it depends on what is in the actual order. Now, I will tell you, last year, mine asked for that. And, I looked at everybody like they had 6 heads because I just keep it clean, not Cat Williams or anything else. But I just kind of thought the nerve. So I'm supposed to sign off on passport and he gets to decide when and where they go to the country and what if they don't come back.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it honestly, it just depends on what's stated. I know that a lot of parents are requesting to have the phrases in the actual orders now because some of them are not from this country. So they want to take the kids out of the country, but now they're backed up with a lot of cases. So I suspect there's going to be a lot of changes.
A lot of children have been abducted to foreign countries when they have parents who are immigrants or foreigners. Children get abducted constantly. That is something that needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed on a federal level because, as Lala said, from state to state, the laws vary. There is no blanket law about passports and taking a child out of the country. One of the most famous cases was the Elian Gonzalez case a while back. And you saw guns being pointed at the father and his child. It's sickening. So that lets you know what a large scale this is on and how seriously it needs to be addressed. Now, since I haven't seen my children for 7 years, I don't know if they've been taken out of the country or not, but I do know that what they have done is illegal. And I challenge anyone who is watching the show to, on a federal level, have the feds come investigate the Lionel versus Lionel case. I'm sure they will find all sorts of indiscrepancies and you'll see that the law was broken and my constitutional rights have been violated. I challenge anyone in authority to pull the Lionel versus Lionel case. Gentlemen, in your cases, were you ever concerned about your child being abducted and you not seeing them anymore?
I mean, that's how my case jumped off. My children were abducted from their home and, I spent the week trying to figure out what was going on. And then I decided to end my life in California and try to save my marriage in Washington. But that was the jump off for me.
Wow, and that's the game right there, Lala. What they'll do, this is what I found that some women have done. They'll take the child out of state, which is illegal, by the way. Okay, you cannot take the child out of state without the knowledge or permission of the other parent. That is abduction. So they'll take the child out of state and then someone will tell them, they'll speak to an attorney and they'll say, this is what you've done. They can come back and get the child and accuse you of kidnapping. So what you have to do is get the father here, make nice with him so that the father stays here a certain amount of time. And once the father is
There's
there.
There's another play though.
Huh?
There's another play though.
What's the other play?
This is what happened to me. the claim was that I was dangerous and she was running away from a dangerous situation, right? But there's no police records. I don't have a criminal record, no domestic violence, no sexual assault. But all that was on the papers I got served when I got back to the state, you know.
She was
And then,
instructed to do that.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like she literally, whoever she came to, I feel like this is what happened, right? Whoever it is, her attorney that she came to, they had a little checklist. Oh, did he do this? Oh, did he do that? Oh, well, you know, we can say this. You know, we can say that. Oh, well, then how we could just gonna paint him to be a bad guy. So when he comes back, he's gonna have to jump through so much red tape, he'll probably give up.
And that's pretty common. Lala, does that happen in your situation?
Yes, and one of the things that I did not understand, and just so that you guys know, and I want to say this, and I know it's probably really hard, it's not personal. It's not personal because strategy is a strategy. It does not know you personally. And one of the first things that I learned when I was in school was the professor started to talk about strategy and character assassination and how they're able to win. So lawyers are already conditioned on what to attack. So Douglas, if you wake up every morning and you have bad allergies, then I might be able to tell my attorney, I think he does coke. He keeps sneezing.
Oh my gosh.
And they will use that and they'll ask your friends, hey, does Douglas sneeze all the time? Oh yeah, he does it. How many times a month would you say when you pass him in the hallway at work, does he sneeze? Oh, 2 or 3 times. And then they'll leave that place and then ask your family members and your friends and everybody else, and then they'll build from there. Wow. And one of the things that they told us was that as long as you can convince the judge that the fire truck really isn't red, that it's blue, it's believable. You just have to make them believe that it's blue.
And the reason that that's acceptable, a lot of people don't know that there are different courts. There isn't just one court. This is family court. Family court is not based on a reasonable doubt. It's based on the preponderance of the evidence. And all you have to do is convince the judge 51% over 50% in his mind. So his or her mind, it's simply how they feel. Like they could look at you and say, I don't like the color of her hair. I believe her ex, just based on, their ex might have had the same color hair that you had. I found that there are many female judges in family court, and if they are going through a breakup in their relationship, they're extremely hard on men that come into their court. And the reason they can be that way is because it's completely unregulated. The judges can pretty much do and say whatever they'd like to do and say, and that needs to change.
Yeah.
John Rockmore, any further questions for Lala?
Not necessarily the questions, but absolutely everything that you said was on point. One thing we probably didn't cover is how people would even interview the kids, because I saw the transcripts of mine and it was kind of like, daddies can be scared. How long have you been scared of your dad? As if they were already scared right from the jump.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How long have you been scared? Can you name a time when daddy was scary? And those kinds of things. I mean, it is when they start to attack your character, and like Miss Lala said, it is strategy, but we don't think as a strategy. It hurts us personally. It's like someone saying, I don't hate the sinner, I hate the sin. Well, to the sinner, it certainly feels like you hate them, right? And at the end of the day, the children see all of these things, and then you compound it whenever the parent is assassinating you as well. Some of the things that we brought in last week, all these things compile, and it's so much weight on you. And maybe, like Miss Lala said, we don't have the patience that women have, and we're like, dude, okay, I'll wait till she's 18, because I felt that way for sure. It was like she was reading my diary or something. I was like, dude, I'll just wait. Good Lord.
Listen, I didn't tell you the half. I gave like very little of like just the antics, and so I just wanted it to be known. Fight for your kids, because I will tell you, as a child of divorce, there was anger, because I'm like, why didn't you fight for me? You know,
Right.
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
where'd you go? How could
That's
you?
a whole nother layer to the whole thing.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
That's chapter 4.
right. And so, and kids are very resilient. So I will tell you that, intuitively, we knew something was wrong. We knew something was off. And, we still are curious and want to know what happened. So don't get discouraged when it comes to that. You have a right. And I think that's the biggest thing that I realized with going to school and looking at the orders. I'm like, okay, so people don't know their rights. They're counting on the attorney to tell them. I'm like, they don't. Okay.
And people need to, hold on for a second, John. People need to speak up and speak out. And that is one of the terminologies that is being used with Cheyedentity is speak out. In addition to that, you mentioned a guardian ad litem.
Mhm.
What is that, Lala?
Ooh.
Everyone doesn't know what that is, so we like to know.
Guardian ad litems, parent facilitators, parent exchange coordinators. So the guardian ad litem, so the way the court system has gotten around having jurors, right? Which really you should just have a jury trial, because then you can have some real human beings, on the stand. Instead, the judge appoints a guardian ad litem. And when they appoint a guardian ad litem, then that's their way of saying, we can't be the eyes and ears to find out what's going on. So we're going to get the guardian ad litem to step in and tell you guys how to parent. And we're going to get them to research and evaluate everything for you. And they become the ad litem for that child during the term of whether it's temp orders or, if you're in between a divorce or not, whatever the case is. The guardian ad litem also gets to basically tell the judge recommendations on what they think is in the best interest. Now, the guardian ad litems can be shady too, so they can be getting paid under the table, okay, and telling you which ways to sway. I can tell you that the guardian ad litem I had, she was like begging me, no talk of California, and I will side with you. You're not to talk about going back to California. The only thing you need to talk about is how you're going to stay, and everything will be great because it's our public policy.
Wow. That's again what I'm talking about when I talk about blatant corruption. That's corrupt, and it's not in the best interest of the child. It's something that they're doing that's business as usual, and it's pretty common, and that has to stop. When is the last time you saw your son, Lala?
Ooh. Okay, no tears. Christmas was my turn this year. So typically the strategy is to get me in court before the holiday or before any of the long periods. So that way it'll delay me getting my child. And so I flew in to go pick up my child. And the exchange coordinator was like, yeah, he's not coming. Sorry you got on the plane. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I said, she's like, I know it's the 404. I said, oh no, 404 ended 3 years ago. I just stopped counting at 404 3 years ago.
Wow.
So he didn't show up. He violated the order, but here's for Douglas, here's the strategy. Well, we're in temp orders. We don't have an order to enforce. We have to wait. So you got to pay more money. We got to get back into court. We got to get the other side to do the temp order. And then we can have something to enforce. And there's that magic bean again.
This is strategy. It falls under strategy. And I'd like to say this for the entire public to see. I've never blamed my ex-wife. My ex-wife is certainly a part of it because she could shut it down immediately and say these children need to see their father. I don't care what you guys say. But I know that they have guided her and navigated her through this and given her this ridiculous strategy to alienate me from our children's lives. But I don't hold her responsible. That's really supposed to be what the court is there for, to literally mediate and come to the proper decision that is best for all parties involved, the children included firsthand, because you have two parents who are interested in what is in the best interest of their children. That's why they show up to court, because they love their children. People that don't want their children, you can file against them all day and every day. They don't care. And it is not mandatory that you show up in family court. It's not like criminal court. They're not going to come looking for you if you don't show up in family court because you've been served. So each parent that is there is a parent that loves their children and wants to take care of their children.
Absolutely.
It's the court that is creating this situation between both parties. Go ahead, Douglas.
No, I was just saying, absolutely, man. I totally agree with you.
So this is something that we must change. Lala, I will say this, we're winding down, but I will say, how have you survived this for 11 years? Please give the people advice that's listening and to our panel as well. You look great, and this is extremely grueling on our health, our financial situations in all aspects. Tell us how you survived from a female perspective. How do you get through this?
It's really stressful, and meditation and prayer, and your family and friends get tired. Like, they don't even want to hear about it anymore. They're like done. So there were a lot of support groups I was able to connect with. Interfaith Wealth Builders was a strong support, and I was giving back into my community. I was feeding Skid Row, because my mentor said, okay, well, you're fighting in court with your kid, but these people are hungry, so pick one, because somebody else has it worse than you. And then my cousin has her charitable organization called Inclusion Clubhouse, and my son has autism. So dedicating time there, and just giving when you really don't have much to give as it is, but certain circumstances are worse than what yours are, I think is what kept me sane. And then also going to school, and just praying and hearing other stories, and meeting someone like Evan and knowing that you're not alone, because most people don't want to talk about it. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it because the first thing is, oh, you're a mom, you must have did something wrong. You must have did something. That's why you're in this situation. So there's a lot of shame that goes into it. And but you know what? Because I was a child of divorce, and because I know that game, that's what kept me going. Because I actually do know better, and I know exactly what my kid is feeling. And he's gotten to the point where he knows it's BS. And I think that's the part that it keeps me going, that and God.
Amen.
Yeah. There is so much respect here for you, Lala. Let me just say that.
Absolutely.
Let me say to all those who are tuning in, please like us and subscribe and get more information, as well as on the Facebook page. Join the Men's Equal Rights page. Join Cheyedentity, and together we're going to make a difference eventually in this country, and we certainly will bring about a serious change in the best interests of our children as well as ourselves. Were there any further questions coming from the outside that you may see, Douglas, that someone has an important question for myself or Lala? I need you to check for that because we're winding down. And I'd like to say, Lala, we definitely want you to come back many, many, many times because you are a wealth of knowledge. I admire your strength. I admire your character, your tenacity, and the fact that you were poised through all of this, because most mothers that are going through what you are going through would have been to jail 130 times and they would be looking horrible. So share with the people how you keep yourself together through all this pain. Prayer. That's how I do it. Faith.
A lot of prayer. And is there injustice? And I think in that injustice, it's like, can't let it go.
Wow. John, Douglas, is there anything else you want to add before we close the show for this week?
I'm really grateful that you came to share your story with us, Lala. It's really impactful. We had a couple people watching have a few comments. Annika Barbosa said that she's a conservator for a senior, and it's similar. She said that gals are very shady. The guardian ad litem's gals. And then Larry asked, how has it affected your children without you physically living with them?
Well, it's still, I'm sorry, it's like physical, like, are they saying physically live with me, or because it's joint?
Yeah, for like the breaks that, that you're not there. I mean, how long are the durations of time that you're going without seeing them?
Oh, well, I mean, that depends because the calendar changes, but my frequency, is a lot. Like I said, I was on a plane every other week. And so, but I didn't just demand for that. I demanded also the phone communication as well. Of course, Skype got thrown out the window because even though he's an IT expert, he said that he couldn't get it to work.
Yes.
Oh, stop.
That's
Man,
one of the
stop.
things that we have to do is we have to speak up and speak out.
Yeah.
We are at the end of our show, guys. We're over time. I'd like to let the public know that next Sunday we will be off and we will be back on the 14th. Please tune in. Please like us and subscribe, as well as please join the Facebook page, Men's Equal Rights. And I believe there's one more question coming from our director. What was that question, Douglas, from Larry?
He said he wanted to give a shout out to the mayor.
Oh, to the mayor. Go ahead, Lala.
So the other person, and I'm so sorry, that gave me a lot of strength is Jill Ejizi, and she actually formed Parental Alienation Association Awareness, and she's a mayor in Illinois, and she, assisted people like Jason Patrick with the Stand Up for Gus campaign. She was on The View with Alec Baldwin, and so I actually, when I was going through it, I found her book on Amazon, and I called her. I called her.
Wow.
I wanted to know how she got the laws changed. She got the laws changed in Illinois. She got the laws, moved in Washington. There are a lot of people. She's very powerful. And so she, encouraged me and said, this is happening to women. This is happening to men. The only way it's going to change is you have to speak out. So I did want to let you know that she also was somebody else that I was able to count on for strength.
Well, definitely I'll be reaching out to you about her, and hopefully we can have the mayor on the show. Next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, guys, so we will be off and back on the 14th. We are asking that you like and subscribe on YouTube as well as Facebook. Join our page. Join the Men's Equal Rights page. Douglas Brown, John Rockmore, and of course, our special guest today, Lala Justice of Cheyedentity. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We truly appreciate it. Stand up for your rights. We believe in 50-50 custody now. Speak out.
Now. Right now.
But bring your Valentine, okay? Bring your Valentine to the show.
Absolutely.